Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Connecting to Healing interview series. I am Stephanie Buckland, your host, and I am really excited and so blessed to be interviewing Adelita Smith today. I'm just so excited to talk with you. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I'd love to share a little bit about your healing journey with the audience, as that is the point of our Connecting to Healing interview series. It's the healer be healed story. You know, a lot of us have had our own journeys and end up as healers. So when did it begin, and what were those aha moments that brought you into this practice? And how did it get in? How'd you get into business?
Okay, well, it started a long time ago in childhood, and I kind of went through the process. And as healers, we have to have, a rougher life, or, a lot of things happen. So, there was a lot of things I was around, a lot of different abuses, substance abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, like everything kind of just all in the thick of it. And I kind of grew up that way. And, there came a point where I was like, oh, this is kind of beyond normal, but you kind of just go through the motions. And I got little hints here and there, and things happening and lots of soul lessons looking back. But I never really took them for what they were until I realized much older what it all meant. So what I mean by that was like my first encounter with spirit, because I'm a psychic medium. So my first encounter with spirit was when I was 4 years old, and it was my uncle Bobby's funeral. He was like my favorite uncle. I was his like favorite niece. I remember everything about, spending time with him, being with him, and he was kind of like a protector. So I remember when he passed away, I remember the funeral, and I just don't remember 4-year-old details. I remember everything. I remember the smell of the incense in the Catholic Church. I remember the music and the Spanish guitars playing De Colores. And I remember seeing my grandmother in a black veil. And I remember hearing her sobs, and it was just so sad. And I remember looking back from the pew I was in and looking up at the casket, and it was open casket. I could see my Uncle Bobby sit up and say, I'm okay. Tell him I'm okay. I'm all right. And I just thought years later that that was just, a memory I had created in my head. And then after learning who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm like, oh no, that was intentional. And that's why that happened. So I kind of went back there, and then just different little things that have happened throughout my life. I've used to tease my husband because he'd be like, oh, I'll see you at 5. And I'm like, no, you're going to work late tonight. It'll be 5:30. So it got to the point where he was like, can you stop saying that? What, are you cursing me? I'm like, no, I just can tell you're going to be late. And so he would get irritated, and that would kind of happen. But I never really took it for more than what I thought it was. I always thought that this was normal, that everyone kind of knew things and could see beyond what people were telling you. You just had a feeling and you just kind of went with that. And I thought everybody did that. Well, it turns out not everyone's like that. And I found out later. And kind of what led me down this path is when I'm a mother of 4, and my second oldest son, Andy, he was my love bug. I mean, we all have kids, and we all, you love all your kids the same, but this one was just very tenderhearted, very sweet, very loving. He would walk in the room and he would just be going to the trash. He'd come back. He's like, did you miss me? It got to the point where I was like, kid, you just went, did you check the mail? Did you miss me? Did you miss me? It's just constant. Yes, I freaking missed you. Okay. So he was just very loving, and, oh, mom, I love your hands. You're so pretty. And just butter me up to get his way. That was Andy in a nutshell. But when he went into the service, he went into the Navy, and he decided to become a corpsman. I always want to say medic, but he's like, nope. So a corpsman. So he actually went with a platoon of Marines, and they went to Kandahar. And apparently that was like one of the most grisly, gruesome, horrible thing. So when he came back, he was changed. He was bitter, he was angry, he was aggressive, he was not kind. So him and his wife kind of had their ups and downs. They had already had one son, but she got pregnant again. They were going to try to stick together. But what ended up happening is after the new baby was about a year old, Andy had just kind of gone ape, and his wife was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. So he's like, no, you're not. So he took her keys and he went out and he was a drunk driver. And it actually ended really bad because he took the life of someone else in the other vehicle. And the other male was maimed. They were both in the front seat. Neither of them had their seatbelt on. He was drunk and going way too fast. And he hit their car. And like I said, one of them died on impact. The other one was maimed pretty bad. The only one that was okay in there, besides Andy, he had to be cut out of his seatbelt, was the other gal. And she was in the back seat of the other car with her seatbelt on. So he actually spent 3 years in jail fighting himself, going through his PTSD, fighting his own battles within. And right before, they had found him guilty. This was 3 years later, they had a trial. And right before they read him everything, he hung himself in jail.
Wow.
So actually, this is where my gifts came up. And this is when I tell people, I fell to my knees and my heart broke open. Because I'm like, now what? It's like I asked God, I'm like, what am I here for? Part of me died that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started this journey. And this is probably where my husband will tell you, this is where she went batshit crazy. And, she started following signs, and he kind of looks back and laughs, but he knew I needed space. I needed time to figure things out. I just needed to just find something or find, there's got to be more to life than this, so this is where I started. And I started following signs. I had never meditated. I didn't know what a chakra was. And I had wanted to be in Reiki. I wanted to learn Reiki like 6 months prior to this for no reason. I just thought, oh, what, that looks neat. I wonder what that's about. So my husband was asking at the time after my son passed, he goes, well, check into that Reiki stuff, And at the time I thought, okay, the only way you can do this is to go through the college, blah, blah, blah. So I checked and I told him how much it was. He goes, can't you find anything cheaper?
Oh.
So I'm like, okay. So I started looking and then, I saw something on Facebook for like a mediumship development, So I went there and I made a phone call and I'm like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Well, they answered the phone. I selected my spot, had to wait a little bit, but I get there and I'm sitting in class. And I remember vividly, I was sitting there and they were going down, people were doing their introductions. Oh, I'm so-and-so, and I'm Claire this, and I'm Claire that, and I'm a Reiki master. And I didn't know who Claire was or why this bitch had so many different versions of herself. I had no idea. I didn't know what Claire anything was. So they get to me and I just start crying. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. I started following signs. My son passed away. At this point, I just wanted my money back. I just wanted to just go because I felt so awkward and out of place. I didn't know what a chakra was. I never meditated. What am I doing here? And I was told, no, you're right where you need to be. And then it was explained to me, you've had what's known as a rude awakening. I thought the term was just a term, but actually much later I found out I had a kundalini, like a reverse kundalini awakening. So everything up here, wide awake. And I was like, whoa. But yeah, so I started seeing, feeling, believing, and I know when spirit's around. And it's just in the beginning, it felt like, you know how when you put your feet in water and you're sitting at the edge of like the lake or like the pool and you kind of swish your legs back and forth and you feel that warmth. That's what it feels like on my legs when spirit's with me.
Huh.
So I'm like, okay. So whenever that happens, I'm like, okay, I'm in, what's going on? Who am I going to encounter? What's going on? But that's one of the signs that I learned early on. But that's actually what led me to the journey and who I am today and where I'm at. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Definitely. Yeah, that's quite a journey. Woo. So
Yeah.
regarding this psychic mediumship, now this is how many years later?
This is about 4 years later.
You've been on this psychic journey for about 4 years. Well, you've already answered the what led you into this practice, so we'll go a little deeper. When you really started to recognize that you had these skills, what was the first thing that you asked? What was the first thing you're like, okay, now that I'm connected?
I don't think there was really a thing that I asked. I just kind of, okay, I know. I know I need to do this. I know I'm going to help people. I know this is going to bring peace to so many people. So I had to refine my skills, and I did ask for clear and evidential information. So whenever I'm doing a reading, I know that my clarity comes through my guides and I believe them. I trust them wholeheartedly. So I know that I have to thank them. So before every reading, I pray and I ask for clarity. I ask for evidential information and I ask for the greatest and highest good. So I ask for that. And then I just connect with someone in front of me. I usually ask what their first name was when they were born. I write it down. And then that's kind of where it goes. And whatever I'm getting, I learned to just give it. It's not for me. I don't have to decipher. It doesn't have to make sense. The most random things have come through and do come through, but the people on the other side of that, they get it. And that's all my job is to make sure that the message comes through for their healing and for their greatest and highest good. So I totally pull myself out of it and I allow the spirit to blend so that they can come through.
Awesome. I think a lot of what I do with my skills is similar. I ask for that clarity. I've never used evidential information though. That is an interesting concept. Give me evidence.
Well, I think it's important because I really believe in the integrity of what I do. And by that, I mean, no disrespect to the person sitting across from me. But when I'm doing this, I work for them. I work for them. And when I honor them and I want truthful, evidential information, that's exactly what comes through. And then after the reading, I thank them and I pray and I let them go. But I think that it's important that people who are developing their mediumship or want to take it a step further, that they realize that this is a sacred art. And I really believe that, how do I put this? Okay. All right. What they say is everyone can learn to play piano. Not everyone is Bach. Not everyone is Beethoven. And there has to be a standard of integrity. Now, and that doesn't mean someone who's certified, because I will tell you my own personal thing on being certified. This is just me. So I don't, not throwing any hate or random things out there, but for me, I hadn't, like, I was telling spirit, I want to be certified. I want to be a certified medium. I want this. And they were like, why? Who's going to ask you for it? You know, when do you ever have to present your certification to be certified? I'm like, it's not, they're like, you're doing it for ego. So I'm like, ooh, ouch. And then they're telling me anyone can say they have a certified course, right?
True.
Anyone can put the backing behind it. Oh, it's certified now. Yay, good for you. You're certifying that other man can judge you. I'm like, okay, all right, thank you. So they say just trust us and just always be that clear, open channel and that vessel. And that's exactly what I try to do and who I try to be. So I think that sometimes the sacredness needs to be upheld more, because anyone can say, oh, I'm this, I'm that. And I have to be really careful when there's people that I give readings to and I can feel their energy, because I don't want to slip and say, oh my gosh, you're a medium, or, you know, I try not to, because what are they going to do with that? They're going to run with it and start giving random, you know, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to create that. I want to create an environment where they're safe to grow, just like I was directed, you know,
Yeah.
and where it can develop. And since mine came organically, I know that that's a big responsibility. And it's not something I was trying so desperately to get. It's just something that was given, something that my soul knows how to do. And there are others out there just like that, that are coming, that are like, oh my gosh, I'm having anxiety, I'm having this, am I going crazy? No, but let's take it one step at a time. I want you to sit and meditate and feel what you're going to feel. And you know, it's important to journal, it's important to meditate, take your salt baths. And I give them like things to do, and I do follow up with them. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, this happened or that happened. And you know what? It's all part of the process. So when we get those things, and I tell them, it's not going to be like in the movies. You know, it's not going to be like this dramatic big thing. It's going to be subtle. Spirit's going to, you know, you're going to feel like a light breeze, or maybe a warm breeze, or a gentle, like it feeling like a hair tingles on your head. You know, there, it's going to be subtle changes to your energy field. But the first thing you need to do is know yourself, know thyself. So feel your energy, tap into who you are, and ask for, you know, your guides to come close and to touch you and to feel you. And this works with anybody, but those are kind of things that I love to get into. That's like, ooh, the little crevices that I just love to crawl in and just play with.
Awesome. Yeah. And you know, I mean, the more we can share, really, the more powerful this message will be out there in the ethers. So thank you. Is there a framework or practice that guides your mediumship? So when you do your readings, do you have like a step-by-step thing you do every time?
Yes, I do. I have what I do is I ask for intention. I always set the intention for the greatest and highest good of the client. And I always ask them if they're open for messages, you know, for their greatest and highest good. And once they say yes, that kind of opens it up, and they're open. Now, sometimes they say yes, but they're like, no. So what I do sometimes is just kind of breathe with them and let them know it's nothing to be scared of. It's nothing to, you know, and a lot of how do I say this? There's a lot of fear still. People that need healing, you know, that have been raised super religious, no matter what religion, there's like this attachment that what I do is bad, wicked, evil, ooh, something to be feared. So what I do is I kind of set them at ease and let them know, because I do pray, and because I walk the tightrope between spirituality and, you know, religion. I can do that very well. And that's actually part of my gift, that I can do that. And they're not separate. They're all ways that we walk each other home. And it doesn't matter what you call it. You call it source, you call it God, you call it Allah, whatever you call it. It's the oneness that we are all, one. We're all together and we're all here to learn from each other. Like bumblebees, we bounce on each other, we rub on each other, we, get little pollen here and there, and we learn and grow. So I think that actually, it really helps too, putting the people at ease before this session, letting them know if it resonates right away, that's great. That's what we want. If it doesn't, don't throw it away, because it can be a message where you are the messenger and you have to give this message to someone else. It can also be something where, you'll remember after the conversation, something will just click and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's what they meant. Yes, I get it. Or it can be a future event. So it's not just anything that they're just randomly throwing out there, but you have to understand, spirit comes through the way they were in life. So if they were funny or they were stinkers or they were like calling stuff out, you're going to get it just like they gave it, and it depends on, how strong they want to come through. Sometimes there's fear associated with it. Sometimes there were things left unsaid. I've had them come in and, oh, I thought they were mad at me. And there's this whole dialogue, and the people that I'm reading for are like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I was pissed or I was angry. And so it's just whatever you ask for, whatever intention, the universe is going to bring that. So I always have the intention of being open to their greatest and highest good, whatever they need to hear right then and there.
That's super important too. I think that, you were talking about integrity, and I think that definitely speaks to that, so awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your psychic medium practice?
No, I just know that this is my calling. And as soon as I found out, this is what it's called and this is what it is, the next steps. And I, like literally within a couple months, I had a business license. I had, my Google page, and I'm like, okay, thank you, Spirit. That's what I needed. Here I am. And it took a little while. It took a little while for it to transition into doing this full time. But I had a government job and I had this thing of, I've been this for 15 years. This is who I am. This is, and Spirit's like, nope. So it's just, it's beautiful when you see it in action. And, the things that get us there don't really matter. It wasn't by my choice that I'm no longer there, but it doesn't matter because I'm supposed to be me. And in the job I had, somebody used to tease me, about being a psychic medium, because I was very open. This is who I am. This is what I do. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not afraid of it. This is beautiful. I love it. So, but from that, I used to find myself getting irritated, like, oh, that makes me mad. That makes me mad. Then one day I was like, you know what? I'm glad you know it. Fuck yeah, that's me. So that the kind of, it just builds and builds. And finally I'm like, you know what? And I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to do it and I'm going to love it. So there's just so many things I love doing. I'm not just a psychic medium. I'm also a Reiki master teacher. So if we can kind of break into that.
Yeah, that's actually the next question. Let's talk about your Reiki experience. So I noticed you have both Usui and Holy Fire on your website. I'm wondering what led you into like pursuing both of them.
Actually, it was the way it was instructed. So during the timeline it was instructed, it was Usui. So we were learning Usui, and then something with the program changed where they still wanted to do Holy Fire, but they were no longer doing attunements. So it's kind of a combination of both that I learned at once. And it's just because I believe and I love the attunements. I really think there's something so sacred and so special about having someone right there and putting the sacred symbols into their crown. And that's why I do the combination, because, with the program, if they want Holy Fire, it's like, fine, I can put that stamp on it too. And I love it, but I am going to attune my students. So they'll have the benefit of both. So they can continue on with their practice and they can still be registered if they want or whatever, but I still get the satisfaction of knowing, you know what, these are the attunements, these are the sacred symbols given, these will go into your crown, these will go into your palms, and you will just be fire beautiful.
Awesome. So how do you use your Reiki, the blended Reiki practice, in your healing sessions?
Whenever it's a Reiki session, I just do Reiki, and a lot of times I will ask, you know, how you have to set your ego and stuff aside. Sometimes when I ask for like the healing guys and people like that to come in, I'll get ancestors to come in, and I'll be like, no talking. You know, other times I'll be guided. No, here, and I'm okay, just a minute. You know, so it just that's really the unique thing. But I have to keep the mediumship way out of it. And usually I gift my Reiki sessions because I feel so rejuvenated and so awesome afterwards.
Oh, I know.
I know. It's like, oh, give it to me. Yeah. Ooh, fill me with that joy. Yes. So usually I'll do that. Like if somebody's sick or if I know someone's had COVID, I will do that. I'll just either do it remotely or, you know, over Zoom or whatever. But I love giving Reiki.
That's beautiful. Can you share some examples of past clients who benefited from your work? People have come back and said, oh my God, you made me wake up, or, you know.
Right. Okay. Well, let me share
stories.
Let me share one with you. I was doing a remote session on someone, and I called beforehand, and any areas you want me to work on, how are you feeling spiritually, what's going on, you know, emotionally. So I took down all the information. I scanned the client. Afterwards I called and I asked, I'm like, what is going on with that toe? Oh my God, I didn't even tell you about my toe. You know, so stuff like that. And it's just the energy. And then other people I have scanned, and this is interesting. I scanned somebody who was in another state, like one of the eastern states. And what I was feeling was their healed old wounds. Like they had a broken arm, and I knew exactly where it was, and I could feel that on a cellular level, and it was kind of interesting. I'm like, ooh. So yeah, that was an old injury. Yeah, that does hurt once in a while, but like all that stuff. And sometimes a lot of my clients will call me and be like, oh my gosh, can we do that again? Because I'll do it, you know. I'm like, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I want you to heal yourself. So let's figure it out. For the cost of 2 sessions, look at this. You get me all day and you learn Reiki on yourself.
Yay!
Right? Doesn't it just make sense? I like
it totally does.
People.
Yeah.
Why would you not love yourself? And you could, you know, you could do it with your kitty or whatever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I gift Reiki all the time. That little guy behind me, which can't see him. He's hiding.
Oh,
the moment. Hi, baby. He gets Reiki all the time. Anytime I feel like he needs something extra, I'm like, okay, come here, little doggy.
Oh, yeah. My husky, he'll sit by me, and if I start giving him Reiki, he'll look at me like, what are you doing?
You're invading my spirit, woman.
Right. He's much more than just a dog, I know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so is this guy. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your books. So I understand you've been a published author for quite some time now.
Since 2015, yes. And I self-published, but this is not the Amazon way. This is going and registering and keeping my copyright and being true to doing it. And actually it came about because my husband was pushing me. I've always dealt with things, and having like a troubled childhood and all that stuff, I've always dealt with writing. And I always thought, oh, I could write poems easy, not realizing it's channeled. I'm like, oh. And this is my first book that I ever wrote. It's called Fade, Poems of Love and Hate. And I called it that because I'm going to read you my first poem that I ever wrote, and I was 8 years old. I don't even have to read it. It's in my head. It's called Love and Hate. Love and hate are our emotions. Love is love, and sometimes in potions. Hate is hate and very fearful. Why can't we all just be cheerful? Love is love and hate is hate. I hope someday we get it straight. I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 years old. And thinking about that now, I'm like, that's pretty deep for an 8-year-old. That's not me.
Seriously.
Yeah. So that's how I dealt with things. And actually, I had a bunch of poems. I was throwing them away. I was burning them. And he's like, no, you need to do something with these. Why don't you just publish them? I'm like, yeah, right. But I did. And there they are. And then with my second book, this is basically collateral damage. This is the pain that I went through. This is the real, this is the raw, this is the ugly after the death of my son. And towards the end, there's a channeled poem from him. And I did that. And it's beautiful. But towards the end, my poems that are like dark, and creepy, and hurting, they turn into beauty and love. So I've found that very cathartic, and that's beautiful. I usually end up gifting this to like veterans, and I'm a suicide advocate against it. So anyone that's feeling horrible or yucky or like they're alone, they're not. So that's a passion for me. And all of the proceeds from this book have gone to the Lake Havasu City chapter for military moms. So I give back a lot.
That's important. Yeah.
It is. It is.
So a little bird told me you have a new book in the works. Can you share?
Absolutely. Yes. Actually, this is the like a rebirth, so this takes you down, yucky, then even yuckier to where it's getting kind and getting good and life feels nice again. Well, this new one is a bunch of poems about the beauty of the transition of my soul coming into who I'm supposed to be at this time, right here, right now. Wow. So it's just a journey, and I have named the book already, but we're going to wait until I can get that copyright on there. I'm very much that person, but it's going to be different than those, but very inspirational and loving.
Nice. Yes. Looking forward to it. So how can people reach you for a reading or a healing session? Is it a separate request?
It's just Medium Adelita.com. That is my website. And then they can reach me through an email at Adelita@mediumadelita.com.
Okay.
They'll know how to spell my name after that.
Yes, they will. Okay. And you're on the socials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've got an Instagram.
You around on Facebook.
Yes.
Are you pretty active on Facebook?
I try to post something inspirational or silly, funny every day. And the thing about this is I'm spiritual, yet I'm still me. I have to be authentically me, and I love to joke. I love to be silly. I will never stop running through sprinklers. Anytime that it's raining, I'm going to be outside. I don't care. This is just me. This is just who I am. And I'm here to help, others heal in any way that I can.
Nice. Okay. Any closing thoughts?
Yes. If you are very much wanting to develop or further your gifts, just remember that you need to practice and be patient. And also, I'm being told this. We have guides, okay? We have guides, and yes, they are there. Unlike parents, if we're running in the road, our parents come get us, right? Mm-hmm. With our guides, we have free will. We have to consciously ask them, can you help me? Because otherwise they're going to sit there and go, yeah, you screwed up. Look at that. Dummy. I'm right here. But this is very truthful and very real. A lot of people don't get it. And sometimes mine are laughing at me because they're like, oh yeah, why do you think we're telling you this? Because I need to hear it. So, yeah. So, so don't be afraid to call on them and ask them, because otherwise you're not going to be able to utilize them fully. And they want to be here. They want to be here and they want to help us and they want to encourage us. And, it's kind of like they're showing me like a bowling alley, how you have the bumpers up. It's just going to take you longer and slower. And it's like, yeah, you'll end up where you're supposed to be eventually. But wouldn't it be nice if you just asked and was like, boom, there you go. Yeah, that would help a lot.
Nice.
So don't forget to ask them for help.
Excellent. I ask all the time. Yeah. Thank you.
Good for you.
Yes, thank you,
Cool.
thank you, thank you. This was amazing.